Of those present, Jay Coleman.
Rick Kaminsky.
Keith Capellini.
Angela Kissel.
Dave Munster.
Matthew Broadwell.
Steve Rodanis.
Darren Evans.
Frankie Terry.
Jim Tepper. Mike Coleman.
Thank you. Any changes to the agenda?
No, anything, I have something on short-term rental for the agenda.
Okay. All right, I believe it's on there. Yep,
Yes.
item number 8. So we need to approve the meeting minutes from May 15th. Everybody had a chance to read those? Or need a minute?
I did.
Okay. I've read them and I'll make a motion to approve when you all are ready.
A second.
Good, you want to sign? You got a copy to sign? We sign it?
Angela, do you have a copy of the minutes for us to sign? I didn't print them.
I've got one here. You want to use
There's
this?
a copy here. Yeah, go ahead, use yours. Let's do that.
Rick.
Again, lost
Borrow mine?
his mojo. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we have some policy changes to discuss. The first one is the cash receipts and return check policy. And
We're just adding that to the overall the policy book.
yeah, it's a revision.
Where do these policies come from?
Many of them existed for a long time, and this is basically updates, and NIMRIC has helped us with those updates.
He's pretty straightforward.
This is to enable us to use do what you wanted to do with the bridges. Set this up first. So we were talking about that last time.
This is the reserve fund policy? Yeah.
And then we can actually create the
Yep.
bridge fund.
We'll have to have it on the annual meeting.
Is this a revised copy way up on top? And these are the previous ones?
Yes, the top one, the cash receipts and return check, it referenced petty cash, but we do not keep petty cash in the office.
Right.
That was the biggest change that was taken out, just Elaine, we reviewed these, reviewing this treasurer.
This one from back in the day, when Ralph was on here. Rust.
And reserve fund balance was, putting the fire equipment reserve on it. We didn't do the thing for the bridge, because that went to the town.
Well, you know, one question that might be on a different policy. Do we have 2 people that open the mail, that open the mail together?
We do not.
Okay. It doesn't necessarily need to be on this one, but we probably should add that.
Okay.
Maybe that's a mail policy. So there's not a lot of changes in this. I would make a motion to approve this. Yeah.
I second it. Unless you got me.
Agree.
Motion is carried.
We got one here to sign.
Sign this one.
Here, keep sharing.
Can't do that all night long.
I'll keep it in the middle. Looks like Elaine has to sign it too, but.
So would we accept cash from anybody for any type of payment?
We do for payment, we give them cash receipt, it's right there and there.
That brings us to the reserve fund balance policy.
Didn't we just do that?
We didn't, that was the cash receipt, or the, yeah.
No, so this one's separate.
That's what we just signed.
No, you sign this one. See, cash receipts, return checks.
Well, mine's still sitting here. We just signed the wrong thing.
No, we signed it. We each had a copy and we just signed it, and Jay just
Oh
signed it.
yeah, it was the wrong one.
No, it's,
Yeah.
we signed the wrong one. I gave you the wrong one to sign.
What did you do that for?
Here's got lots of papers here. I'm trying to
It's like the reserve fund balance policy just passed then.
So we want to re-sign one?
Yeah.
We just need to,
Okay, let's sign yours.
yeah, we gotta sign this. I'm sure we're gonna sign that one too, so it doesn't matter.
Those are the ones in front of us.
There you go.
Mike, do you have a pen I can borrow?
I don't, I gave it to Elaine and
Right.
that's it.
Keep that right there. Right. Well,
What's up?
mine goes out on there.
I'm not swapping.
Right.
We're not in office, we're not,
Plus the red crayon.
we're not in office either, so we can't just go around, so.
So this isn't to establish the reserve fund for the bridge, this is just to have a reserve fund
It's,
policy.
it's our policy around reserve funds, yeah.
Okay.
And it's how we fund it basically every year.
Yeah.
You know, we vote to
Yeah,
build the budget.
And the funding would come through the budget.
Correct. Yeah. And I'll make a motion to approve that one. You all are ready.
and I'll second it. That's reserve fund.
You don't wanna use the one we already signed?
I got it, I got it.
Oh, got it.
That's right.
Okay.
Wasted ink.
Yep.
The precious pen.
Okay.
So this next one has a few changes to it, facility use policy. It has a list of acceptable events. There's some prohibitions, hours, occupancy, birthday parties, baby showers, retirement parties, bridal parties, conferences, classroom trainings, town dinners, services, bake sales, fundraisers. The one thing I noticed is that, I mean, it's a little bit of work to manage it, I think. We don't have a lot of those uses, and there's a list of fees here associated with it, and considering what we've, this is just a thought. We've asked taxpayers to, you know, for money to renovate that building. I wonder if we should be charging the fees. They're not large, but the meeting room is $25, the community center is $50, and the community center kitchen is $75.
Trying to think if we have any expenses as a result of having somebody use the place. I mean, we get the place cleaned once a week anyway. It's not like a cleaning fee or anything.
I'd really like to see the building used a little more too. I mean, we just, invested in it, it'd be nice to see people taking advantage of it.
Wasn't the thing, drinking was the problem, was the thing, wasn't that the linchpin?
And there's no alcohol. Although we could amend that if people got their own insurance. I mean, that,
The town of Reading has a very similar thing. You have to actually purchase, if you're gonna have an event at the town hall, you have to purchase insurance. Typically, the minimum is $100.
I think that's worthwhile to protect the town.
Yeah.
It does,
And I would support that in lieu of fee.
but that's only if there's alcohol present.
It's got a $100 security deposit thing, in that provision in it.
What you're talking about.
Is that enough?
Reading.
Yeah, I mean, I've generally seen most people that would rent our building would be
So
responsible. Yeah.
what buildings are you talking about? This?
Community center, the municipal building.
And the community center or.
This is the community.
center.
What do you consider the community center?
Yeah.
This building, because this has a kitchen, there's no kitchen in the other building. Oh, you guys have a kitchen at the fire department though. Okay. I don't know if that kitchen's, up to code.
That's probably not compliant for commercial, like for food service.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I know when we had hot lunches for the kids for school, it barely passed.
Yeah.
So what kind of insurance would that be, Mike, like liability insurance?
It is a liability policy, yeah, they run it through H.D. Bailey Company. And you basically submit an application, and then the minimum fee is $100.
Our insurance company requires that of us.
Just for that event.
Events without fault, if the people having the
Yeah.
wedding or whatever, certificate of insurance for that.
It would be nice to see it used more, if people were aware they could use it, and it might be utilized a little more for small gatherings.
And for small community groups too, like you
Yeah.
had the Strawberry Festival, if you had to come indoors because of the bad weather, the
Oh, yeah.
various, Tyson's Ladies Aid, Snowmobile Club.
So you're saying waive the fees then?
Actually, my Bob Lambert's 80th birthday party, but that was around the building.
You would waive the fees?
Jake
would waive the
suggested
fees?
waiving the fees, so I'm asking him to waive the fees.
We just asked the taxpayers to put all this money into helping us renovate the building, and I think, it feels a little lack of gratitude,
Couple $1 million, yeah.
to charge a little fee like that.
No fees for residents.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Make a nice go-kart track in here.
And there's daycare in here, is that the,
I mean, I don't have a problem with not charging.
So the change would be no
Security
fees.
deposit, but not.
Security
Yeah.
for cleaning, should it need it,
which probably
It's
would.
excessive,
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be cleaned up, but I mean, it's,
Trash too.
yeah.
That's right, you got trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would have to have some sort of,
And I wouldn't expect a big wave of use. I mean, we
No,
get
I-
very little use now, but just
Right, but
Once a year.
it'd be nice to see it used 4 or 5 times a year.
yeah, it would be nice if you might get some more.
New Year's Eve gala.
I
Ah,
like the idea of having a welcome.
Where was the
welcoming
old-
to the community and,
yeah,
bring the community together a little more, and that's good, that's all good. So we're gonna amend this and eliminate the fees, but keep the security deposit and require insurance if there's alcohol involved.
so what's the security, I mean, what about, like they were saying garbage and all that, is that? you're not-
Currently $100 in here, right? $100.
Yes, thinking more in line with
$100.
damage if there's.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean, what's $100? Not much.
Yeah, nowadays, to rent somewhere is expensive.
It was originally 500 that was in there, and
Was
then
it?
had the insurance, yeah. And that was just, when Elaine had brought that and talked about it. And we tried to highlight some things of what people could use it for to make it more appealing.
Yeah.
If they saw those, and it was required, the insurance before, and there was something how we said, may require, depending on what the event is.
Oh, that's good, okay.
So we're good with $100? You want to hire $250?
What do you guys
I
think?
could support that.
I mean, you're not gonna get anybody to clean it for $100 if
I mean,
it's trash.
If it's
Right.
damage, you're gonna get it back as a deposit.
Right,
Not
yeah.
out of pocket.
Right.
So,
Right.
They would write a check and then just keep it and not even cash it.
I mean, if it really gets damaged, then you can, criminal proceeding, right? I mean,
Okay.
Silly string on the signal.
Yeah, we're gonna move, I'll make a motion.
Could you hold a wake or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Why not?
The after party, you mean?
Mike wants to pay in advance.
You can put services on it.
Setting on your
Alcohol.
celebration of life.
Can't be an Irish wake then.
Did you get a second?
Is that what you want?
No,
Okay, I'll second
Oh, yeah, fine.
it. There you go.
all right. That brings us down to our NEMRIC bulk time purchase agreement.
Are we gonna sign that?
Do we need that?
It needs to be modified.
Modified.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Purchase agreement.
No, it's pretty similar to last year. They've been giving us a reduced rate from 145 to 115. And a couple years ago, we didn't use much of it, and they refunded us a big chunk. They did, and that was just, I think it was just kind of decent of them because it's not in the contract.
And what services do they provide for that?
Support for the accounting functions. Basically, Cynthia from Nemrick acts as our business manager as well. You know, she helps Elaine and probably you as well, right, a little bit, in just getting ready for the audit. If there's questions about bookkeeping, how things should be done. I think she helps review accounts payable, makes transfers, intra-fund transfers at our request. Elaine has mastered a lot of those things, but Elaine was new to the position and required a little bit of support when it first came on, and I think that's what we're seeing. Things are really in good shape with our accounting procedures, so we use them less and less. And so I see this time it's really, again, it said, for any unused hours that did not meet the minimum 96 hours agreed upon. So we're using them less and less.
I think at a minimum.
Yeah. Just to keep their business going.
But if you don't use that, you pay upfront 96 hours, and if they don't use them all, they refund that? Or they get that no matter what?
Theoretically, they get that no matter what, but one year they just said, hey, you know, we didn't use much, and they gave us a refund.
Does that also include legal services?
Not that I know of.
Does not cover the annual support fee, disaster recovery agreement, maintenance agreement, off-site seminars, or any supplies the town of Plymouth may purchase from now on. That's a nice chunk of change to that right up front. It's a change. All the towns are in for it though, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've been responsive. You know, if we have a question, they work through it with us, they'll dig. And the bottom line is, I mean, with Elaine's work and their help, I mean, the town finances, I mean, the auditors are happy. It's come a long way, I think, in 3 years.
I'll make a motion. We accept it. The NEMRIC bulk time purchase agreement.
And I'll second.
I think you just need your signature.
And that brings us to the traffic ordinance. And this is just a general renewal, is that correct, that we do every year for the sheriff's department so they can enforce tickets? Yep.
Yes. Now, this lists the roads, I believe, that are 25 mile an hour. And we wanted to add this road out here in front of the municipal building.
No.
What's the matter?
Go through Cuttingsville every day, and they used to be higher, and they have a very long 35 mile an hour. And let me tell you, it's pure awful.
Well, I think
I'm not talking about 100, I'm talking about.
in front of the building, right?
Right,
That's town
I
office.
know, how far?
Well, it's a safety issue, right? I mean, we
No,
have
I
to-
understand, I think I'm turning. I'm
Fire
just curious how far.
Well, it would be the paved section all the way to the neighbor's property.
You take out the passing lane?
Yeah. What's in front of the municipal government, pretty much.
Okay.
And that would be a 25-mile-an-hour zone?
That's what we're requesting.
That's pretty fast, actually, through there.
That is.
Parking lot, that's nice.
25, yeah. I don't know what town highway number that is off my head, but I'd like to propose that we make that section of road that's paved 25 miles an hour.
Could you make it less?
I don't think we can we?
I don't know,
Is it?
Steve.
Is this just for the folks that live back there? Are they gonna obey the sign?
Well, good question.
We were gonna put up a sign anyway, but without an ordinance, we can't
Right.
enforce it. So that's why we need the ordinance. You know, it's our property, we'll put a sign, we put any sign we want on our property, but without an ordinance, you can't enforce it.
Right.
So that's the purpose of adding it to this
Right.
ordinance, in the event that we want to enforce it at some point, or the sheriff wants
Or
to
need
enforce
to.
it. Technically, somebody could challenge it, because it's not in the ordinance right now, if we just post it
Okay.
and take them to court. So that's the purpose of it.
Well, the road sees a lot of traffic coming and going, especially in the fall. We're bringing in sand and stone, and there's people in the town hall.
What brought it to our attention is there's a couple of tire burnouts out in
Never
front
saw
there where
those.
kids were doing closets and stuff. And,
Parking lot.
and then
Yeah, right.
the municipal staff has said there were issues of people going pretty fast down through there.
It is.
So with trucks coming and going, it's not a good program, so. I make a motion, we accept the ordinance with that revision.
Nothing else changed?
No other roads at 25, is that?
Kingdom Road is Kingdom Road 25?
There is a section on Kingdom Road that is 25, yes.
That's true.
It's where the switchback, and speaking of, there's a pile of stone that's been sitting on the Kingdom Road for quite a while, and one of the signs has been in the ditch for like 2 months now. I don't know what the stone's for. It's where that big chunk of pavement is missing. It goes down about 2-3 inches. I don't know if that's state or our,
Kingdom Road's ours.
well, I don't know why it's been sitting there that long.
How far up?
I don't know, I pass,
Near Scott Terrace, before you get to Scott Terrace,
Before?
I think, isn't it?
It's after.
well, it's after the Scout Camp Road.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's
between
before
Scout-
Shimps, is it before Shimps?
Yeah, it's before, it's right
Before
between
Shimps coming down, right?
Scott
Or
Terrace,
maybe after, I can't remember.
Scout Camp.
You can't miss it. Because a lot of people like to avoid it and go on the side, like go over the yellow line, and that's not good because it's a blind curve there.
Stone Road, yeah.
Yeah, have you?
And sign in the ditch.
I have been guilty of doing that myself.
You hit it and it's bad.
It's bad, it's not, but why is that stone sitting there? Someone dumped a pile of stone like 2 months ago, and the sign is in the, yeah, the sign is in the ditch, it's been there. Now it's all covered with weeds, you can't see it.
I can address that.
Yeah.
I seconded that, Angela. Gotcha.
Thank you.
Keith, you good?
That's nothing that has to go to a vote or anything like that, that ordinance for the
I don't
speed
think
limit?
so.
No, we can modify it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a notification.
Rick, what do you have to share with us about the highway department report?
Oh. Well, basically, what I wanted to say was that we got another grant in the $200,000 range for the building bridge.
Yes.
So I will say, I don't want to take credit for getting that grant because it was done through the highway department and we had Caleb do it. We're trying to work him into running up the ladder. So we had him do that paperwork and he was successful. So we'll get that on the schedule, and it may not happen this year, maybe next year. We have 2 years to use the grant, but that road will require a closing to do that. And right now, my best guess is about 2 months.
What do we think the total project cost is gonna be for this?
250?
Okay, so not a big ask for the taxpayers?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same type of work that was done on the Stickney Bridge, pretty much?
Yes and no, Steve. Their curbing and the deteriorated concrete will all be repaired. We're gonna put a new deck on it.
Right.
We're gonna
Okay.
tear off that deck, put a waterproofing on it, and then pave over it. And we're gonna reinforce the abutments. They're undermining if you get down and really look what's going on. And we're gonna add a lot of, they call it armoring, riprap and stuff to reinforce the banks around the base of those. And we're gonna reset that fire hydrant.
That was so, I know we had a conversation the other night, I think Dave brought it up, was something about the hydrant that's in the water and maybe doing something
Yeah.
there as well.
You get a grant,
All that work
you
is
get a
being-
grant for those too, right? Through the
Well, we
fire
had a
department?
grant, we did get a grant to do what we did
Okay.
on that, but, we might be able to put some sort of a tank or something in there and be able to make it so we don't have to worry about it clogging up as
It's
much.
a sediment issue?
I'm sorry?
It's a sediment issue? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the
And debris floating down. and
pickup end of it's
getting
getting
hung up.
silted out. So
Yeah,
right now it's exposed.
Well, did Fran get that grant? Fran got that
Trying to get
grant.
that grant.
okay.
I've asked another time.
So we'll-
I think if you put the pipe down closer to the abutments,
Yeah.
where the riprap is, I don't think
think
it'll
you're right.
silt up.
I think you're right.
So I think that would be a better solution.
So as that plan gets developed, we'll give everybody plenty of notice about that road closure,
Good.
including Hawk and neighboring property owners, stuff like that.
That's not my hawk. Where exactly is that bridge again?
Just down beyond Hawk driveway.
Okay. I thought that was your
Yeah, you
station.
turn right in Hawk Resort. That's-
Turn down that road from Route 100, you pass Hawk, it's the first bridge you come to.
And towards
I thought
Scout
my
Camp
Marvin
Road.
and I were trying to figure out where it was. And there's a fire hydrant there?
Dry
Yeah,
hydrant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's really what I want to share with you on how we report.
Just small thing, I noticed the beavers are working again up on the top of Patrick Road, straight away where the culvert is.
Oh, okay.
Beavers are up again?
And it looks like an emergency, but they're plugging up. Like,
Yeah, brother.
Can I do something?
oh, sure, that one, yeah.
Great, great. Well, you know, we created Patch Book, I wanted to tell you that.
Drove it, yeah.
And what we did was we tried to pitch it away from the river toward the other bank and then make some crossovers through culverts and stuff and have a minimal berm on the brook side. And hopefully that'll help a little bit.
Stop the erosion.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's it for the highway report, then we'll go to short-term rental discussion. And Steve, did you have something to share?
I do. I have a petition, and I'm gonna read it first. It's not very long. So, it's Town of Plymouth, Vermont, notice of petition. The undersigned qualified registered voters of the Town of Plymouth, Vermont, request by this petition of disapproval of the Select Board proposed amendment to short-term rental ordinance, due no later than 44 days after May 15th, 2023. Knox box shall remain mandatory requirement for short-term rental ordinance. Insurance requirements, specific rental endorsement, also known as commercial or landlord insurance, specific to short-term rental, providing 365 days per year coverage. Economy sharing is not valid coverage. Coverage by rental representative, example, Vacasa, Airbnb, or VRBO are not acceptable. All other requirements mandated by the original ordinance remain an unchanged requirement with an exception to verbiage for clarification and understanding only. Conflict of interest should not be considered for any part of the administrative process. I have close to 40 names on this, and that, to me, in itself, shows the concern of the voters.
Sure.
What's the minimum requirement for signatures, Steve?
There's 22, I think there's 400, so we're almost double what we need for signatures on that. So you need 5% of the voter registration list, which is 400 and...
430 or it's 430, I think max, or a little bit more than
So
that.
430 would be
It's under
20
It's under 450, I know
22.
that.
signatures on that, so.
There you go.
I mean, I look at it as one of the things I'm thinking with the, I mean, I got most of those signatures, I did have help. I got most of those signatures within about 6 hours. And then I decided to just slack off because I didn't really need any more on that. But as I saw people, I would say, well, you know, this is what we're talking about. And people, you know, I had one person that wouldn't sign it, just one. Out of anybody that I asked on that. So some people were out of town. I probably could have got 50 or 60 easily on that. So I just think it's something that shouldn't be changed personally. That's my feeling, and obviously the feeling of almost 40 other people on that. So, but I don't know if you know, because you can make the change, but I don't know if it has to go to a vote, or should we go that route? Does it need to be considered? Because it's an expense to do that.
It doesn't need a vote.
It doesn't need a vote.
Not
Because I know,
by the public.
I'm sorry?
Not by the public.
That's, you know, I mean, because I know there was something in the letter that was sent that it needed to be 44 days, and then it could be, whatever, 60
Yeah,
days.
that's just for posting purposes.
Okay, yeah, so I wasn't sure where that needed to go on it, so,
The only thing that's confusing to me, Steve, is the insurance piece.
the what?
The insurance piece. Because different companies have different ways of adding insurance. Some have a rider, some have require a new policy, or some might require a commercial policy. You know, different companies have different requirements to offer coverage. So,
Well,
I'm not sure what.
with the insurance part of that, because what I did is I called the insurance companies to see exactly what it covers. If I was unsure of
You called
something.
one company.
Oh, no, I called several.
Okay.
I called several companies.
Okay.
You know, when it became an issue, some were very clearly stated that it covered short-term rental. I mean, there was some that were very clear. The one up on Hawk on that side, the guy owns an insurance company. I got a lot of advice from him about that. You know, he's from Rhode Island, but he writes in policies. And it was a lot of good information out there, and that's just something to say, well, if you're unsure of it, then you question it. That's not, you know, and then you can make that decision going forward on that. It's not, because they are, and you are absolutely right. Some call it a rider, some call it an endorsement, some call it something else. Economy sharing was very clear by several that is, if I rent a room to somebody, that's economy sharing. I'm there, I live there, that's economy sharing. So, you know, but that, and there's, you know, I wish I could say I had all the answers to that part of it, but I don't. And it's something that I think, you know, just going forward is learning, you know, to decipher what is acceptable and what is not acceptable on that. And one of the things that I was told as well is that there's companies, because people say, well, then I got to change my insurance company because they don't offer it. Well, if they don't offer it, then there's a difference. And it's not to change their insurance company, well, then that's what they need to do. You know, that's not, you know, you know, if you have an insurance company and they don't offer what you need, don't you go somewhere else? You know, that's just the bottom line. And if somebody wants to have a short-term rental, it's not that much of an expense to do some of these things. A lot of it, the Knox box is a one-time expense. It's not, you know, it's just part of doing business. You know, I'm in business for myself. I have to have insurance. I have to insure my car. I have to register my car. I have to have a license to drive my car. I have to inspect my car. That's part of driving. That's part of my responsibility for that. And that protects not just me, but it protects anybody else that I may have a problem with. So that's,
Okay, so our intent was to try and make this a little more user-friendly, but, you've done your due diligence and you've got some signatures that tell us that.
well, I mean, when I think user-friendly, one of the things that I know we did talk about quite a while, and then it's similar in Frank's instance. Frank lives there, Frank's a resident. We did talk about eliminating some of the, not the compliant part of it, but some of the registration fee, because that's a bonus. I live there, he's taking care of it. There's only a few in town that have that incident. And I think that's an encouragement for people to say, hey, maybe I'll live there full time. I think that's a possibility. And it's a reward to sense as being a resident on that. The ones, again, and I know I'll bring it up again, I did 17 of them that were complete. Not one was a resident of Vermont. And most people, and some of them, there's one particular guy, he gets $850 a night. He's got 4 bedrooms, minimum of a 3-night stay. So he makes $2,250 for 3 nights. It's not, that's a small part of the expense. And of course, when they were talking to me, they would seem to be very happy, and that was like, and accepting it, but, maybe when they closed the door, they went, that idiot, but, that's okay, but that's not, it's just the cost of doing business, a lot of it,
Okay, you mentioned conflict of interest in there, Steve, and you previously said you thought Frank had a conflict of interest and you thought I had a conflict of interest. Are you still under that same?
Well, I mean, to a point, because I know Frank was against the ordinance in the beginning, and he was against the Knox box. And one of the first things he did when he became we got to get rid of the Knox box. And then you all kind of went on board with that. And I didn't think that was, that was real. I mean, I think Frank's a great guy. I think Frank can do a great job. Mike Scamilio had a big conflict of interest. It was almost.
I wouldn't start talking about other people's conflicts of interest in this meeting. I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I would say conflict of interest is an ethical term, and it has no purpose here. I think we're talking about a difference of opinion, which is fine.
Correct.
But to throw around terms like conflict of interest, I think are very dangerous and slanderous, and I agree that it should not be discussed, and it shouldn't even be part of that. Because if my turn comes up to be inspected, I'll have Rick, Mike, or somebody else could inspect it. I have no intent.
not me.
And I make no money out of this.
Not me, Frank, thanks.
No, not you, because you've shown that you think I have a conflict of interest. So I have, I have nothing to hide. People can see that. I'm doing a job. And I look at it as Mike is a lister, and he's appraising houses, and he owns a house. How is that any different from?
Yeah.
I think that's
I agree.
an
Well,
issue.
it should be executed impartially, though. I mean, you shouldn't bring your own biases in when you're executing whatever administrative processes you have to administer. If I sort of agree that conflict of interest is a loaded term, because I don't have a short-term rental, so I have some biases perhaps against it, and I don't think you're ever going to get to a situation where you have somebody who has no biases coming into it, but you should execute the job without bringing those biases into it.
Right, and that's what I do. And if somebody thinks I don't do it, I assume the select board would question me on that.
So as a result of this, we have 60 days to call a special meeting for a referendum. That's the rule.
Oh, because it's petition.
Petition, yeah.
Okay,
It should be voted on.
I guess so.
Is that all right?
And
So,
so I guess we can, as a board, make recommendations, but because it's a petition, we have to go that route?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was wondering if you had to do that, if
Say
things
no.
remained the same, it was going to be unchanged instead. I don't know that, that
We
was
already
kind of.
adopted the changes though.
here, so here we have, we've got 60 days. What do you need?
It does seem like you should try and write the insurance part of it in a more generic manner because of the issue that you brought up with the different companies, so that you bring it with one company and they call it one thing and another company calls it something else. You don't want to have the language so specific that it.
Okay, so those kind of discussions should probably come up when we have a hearing.
Right.
And, I mean, we can't change that now because the signatures are based on what was written there.
So,
You had a question, Jay?
As a non-voter, can I ask a question at this meeting?
Yeah. I think
Although I
that's
do-
fine, right? Don't hurt to ask questions.
I do provide some taxes. I'm a short-term rental owner, and I'm just looking for clarification. Steve's presented a petition. As I read the text that was read into your May 15 meeting, it seemed as though the petition is either a vote to adopt what you, or approve what you amended, or to turn it down.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to have an opening to interject changes. Although,
Yeah.
from my perspective and some others that I've spoken with, it would be nice if we could have a wider discussion and talk about maybe some changes that would make it more palatable, but still cover the health and safety and cover the concerns the town has. You know, is there going to be an opportunity for that type of dialogue?
I don't believe, and please correct me.
Cool, we've had the dialogue. I mean, how many times are we gonna
I know,
keep this
we've
can
had-
back and forth about insurance and the Knox box? I just, I'm personally just, I'm done with the whole thing. I mean, if you have a piece of property, if you call yourself a landlord and you cannot figure out how to get proper insurance, don't do it. It's like any pursuit, anything, baseball, whatever if you can't do it or you don't know how to do it, do something else. So if we're gonna require people to have insurance, it's up to them to understand and figure out
Right.
how to acquire it and present something that shows that you have it. If you have an LLC, if you're renting, commercial property, call a commercial agent, get a commercial policy written. You can't get your commercial insurance through a domestic. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. There's separate agencies, separate types of insurance. It's not up to the town to decide what kind of insurance any of these things should have. We can't enforce that. The people that own them should do that and just present whatever kind of certificate you're gonna get for whatever type of property you own. And you should show that, and all we can do as a town is say, okay, yeah, that looks good, fine. We can't sit here and deliberate over, well, that's not this and this, and that's gonna come out in the wash ultimately, because if you're running, if you got an LLC and you're not insured through a commercial policy, then, shit on you, excuse my French, if something happens, but you're not covered. And so forget it, it's not our ball of wax as a town to decide these things. If we're gonna require it in the ordinance, great, and then it's out of our hands completely at that point. It's the property owner, the landlord, whatever the hell you wanna call yourself, get your insurance and do it and show us that you did it. Show him, he's the enforcer.
Right, and that was the intent of the whole thing. Why is it the town's responsibility to make sure people get the right insurance?
It's not, it should not be, the town, why would the town
I
not?
have to say though, as a resident though, I'm not really sure I totally agree that it's not the town's responsibility. I mean, I understand that the administration is complex, but it seems to me that liability insurance that protects if a resident, if a full-time resident sustains injuries or loss or something as a result of behavior or of folks who are renting short-term, it seems to me that there should be something that protects them.
It's called the legal system of the United States. So if somebody has no insurance, there are probably 100 different lawyers. You can pick up the phone and they'll be jumping at your case, and that's how cases are settled every day that way. You have no insurance, somebody gets injured on your property, well, cha-ching, go bang, go bang.
Well, Dave illustrated the dog issue.
So that's not really a valid response, I don't think, though, because you get.
But this is the United States of America, and there's no way that the town can require
But the
people
point
to
that just
get
hear me
insurance.
out for a
You're
second.
required to get auto insurance, and it's not that if you,
You're not-
it's not a
not-
kind of situation
You're
you're
you're required, but there's plenty of people that drive without it. That's why there's, the other side of your auto policy
But you're
insurance is
required to get
non-insured motorists. Because there's not who knows who's
But
got
you're
insurance.
required to get it.
Well,
And that's
yeah,
all
but
we're saying is
that
they
doesn't
should be
mean that you're gonna
required.
get it. It's the same premise with the short-term
And
rental.
what is it,
If you've got a short-term
what does that
rental,
do?
you should have
Required to get it.
insurance.
What does it do?
What?
It protects
We
the other
can
people.
require it, but you're not gonna, it doesn't mean they're gonna go get it, and even if they do,
Well,
it's
that
not
doesn't, you're right,
our,
you're
You're
right.
right.
it's
you're
not
right.
our
No,
shtick.
we should
Get what
require
you should
it.
get, or don't rent property.
Well, that's
Don't rent property, don't do it, do something else. Figure out what kind of
But
insurance
we
you
should
need.
still require it.
We talked about
We
this
should require
to the ends of the earth. If you're renting commercial property, it's simple, it's very simple, commercial property. If you've got a LLC, you need to get a commercial insurance. If you've got a place that you rent out, you rent a warehouse, you rent a place, a commercial apartment building, commercial insurance. If you've got a second home and you own a condo, you can't get commercial insurance on that. You've got to get insurance through your domestic policy, through your through Allstate, whatever, name a company. You can't get a commercial policy on a second home. It's impossible.
Nobody's asking for a commercial policy.
Well, this is the same semantics we've been talking about
Liability,
over and
right?
over
They want- they
and
need
over.
insurance.
And now we're gonna have another meeting and another vote on the same thing. And there's no way to do it. There's no way. It's the same question. It's the same thing over and over again.
But you can get commercial.
I'm not saying to ignore it. I'm saying.
But that's why we
this
have
is-
to have a hearing.
Yeah, we're gonna have a hearing.
We do require insurance.
We want
So we do require.
This gentleman had
If they don't get it, that's.
Excuse me,
I'm flying a little blind, so
Gentleman had a
I'm just coming in late to the whole thing. I just have a question. What is an instance that renter's insurance would affect other property owners around them? Is there a single because wouldn't it just be property insurance? It's actually, renter's insurance protects the renters, but also the property owners that are renting. Is it like if a short-term rental customer burns down the house and it catches the neighbor's property?
So what we are interested in is, yes,
Wild parties, people
taking care of the neighbors.
Right,
So
but
for
that would still
example,
be an
in
individual's
Bridgewater,
property.
there's a short-term rental in Bridgewater where there were some folks that were illegally setting off fireworks that were in the middle of the night, landing, or appeared to be landing in the forested area behind some friends of ours that I know for certain, and terrified them, but also if they had started a fire, their house could have been at risk. So now granted, they have insurance on their home, as all people should have, so perhaps that would cover their house, but you have to kind of take into consideration that the liability should be on the
Homeowner.
the homeowner. It shouldn't be on the person whose house burned down when they had nothing to do with it, because your rates go up every time you have a claim against insurance. Your rates go up, so it does impact, even if you're covered for that particular incidence or something, your rates go up.
And there are
That would be a
limits.
legal matter, as Keith
And there's
said,
also
that's
limits on it. I
part of
actually
the legal
know,
system, right?
So
Interesting. Okay.
I
know somebody that was in-
think we're gonna have a chance to discuss this at the hearing. I think we're gonna go through this probably a couple more times.
So what's, okay, all right, Keith, hold on. So what's the, going forward, we have to do what?
We're gonna just check in with our legal counsel to make sure we're doing this correctly. But
Okay,
we do think there's going to have to be a public meeting.
okay, a public meeting, hearing for people to put input.
Yep.
Which we've had several already.
And
It's not
vote,
been a-
and probably vote on the
Okay,
amendments.
if we vote, please do it by Australian ballot. That's all I'm gonna request.
And the vote, the language of the order, it has to be completely clear what's being voted on.
Yeah,
It cannot be, it has to be absolutely
ordinance is-
crystal what that vote is signifying, what the people are voting for, okay?
And yes.
So we need to.
I agree. And we're gonna make sure, because there's a petition, the ordinance has been adopted. I don't know if the petition applies to amendments, so that's part of the legal review.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just
I got
don't know.
that same question, Jay.
So,
Is the vote of the people in the special meeting, or does it go to a town-wide
That's what
ballot?
this would, if we have to go to a town meeting, it is a town-wide special meeting, so and I believe,
But the people in the room are the ones who vote.
correct,
so you have to
Correct.
attend the meeting to vet, so I guess
Correct.
we're asking.
Yes.
Yeah, just like a town meeting.
yeah. And I believe, I believe it's only open to residents to actually vote.
Yes.
How about the comment?
I would think that's.
People at, if we're going to town meeting, as long as they are given permission to speak, they can speak.
Yeah, I think
If they
if
are not,
nobody
if they are
objects.
non-voter. Yeah, if the people,
I mean, there are some
Have any
small
objection?
issues, and you talked about it a lot.
yeah,
When I got the notice 2 weeks ago, it was kind of the first I knew that this was on the table. There are a number of small things within the ordinance as it's drafted that aren't clear. And you can come up with scenarios, whether it's fireworks or whether it's next door neighbor's dog. But there are other issues as well that might need to be cleaned up. And could be if sat down around a round table for a period of time and just talked to people that are in this. We've been doing this for quite a few years. You know, whether it's numbers of cars in the driveway, if somebody's guest, talk about occupancy.
So, you
The
know,
Short-Term Rental Alliance in Vermont has got some guidelines for short-term rental ordinances.
it's a complicated thing, it's a controversial thing, a lot of differing viewpoints. If you had some, you want to go through the ordinance, send us some suggestions. I mean, I could say I would read them.
Yeah, the ordinance is on
But
there.
I'll do that, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
That's basically what
And it's something new.
everybody's been doing.
It's
Yeah,
something, it's
new.
not, it's something that all of a sudden, it's like it's on the table. It hasn't been evolving for 20 years, you know, it's something that, you know, is.
And a lot of towns are doing it, it's just,
But you have an ordinance that was voted on by the town.
no, we only voted to have an ordinance. There was no ordinance to vote on. We wanted to have a short term, as far as my memory can go back, however we did it, when we voted, it was should the town have a short
But
term
the
ordinance.
basic,
So there wasn't any verbiage?
No, it's just, do we want to have a short term rental?
I thought there was verbiage that included like these.
There was a committee, she was part of the committee.
But that's after, the committee was after we voted, I believe.
The committee was
Oh, we
doing the
have-
work first.
We have to go back and look at the,
No, you're correct, though, that's the way, the vote enabled the select board to implement a.
right, so we have to
But we-
go back and look at the wording of that
But
vote.
the-
We did, we
It
had
might be a
meetings
year
before
and a
that.
half. We had,
You did, and that's what was adopted. We adopted the work that had already been done by you, and then there were problems with it, then we went back. to the
right,
drawing
so
board.
we need
Then
to
we
know
had
when we
this
first
thing
did that.
that you
We have to
just
go back and look at that.
torpedoed, so now we're back to
Probably
square
over a
one.
year and
see,
a half.
that's what
Yeah,
my
because
question
whatever the
is.
voters voted, I mean, I think that should be.
But it was just to have an ordinance, it wasn't on any of
Right, they
this.
voted,
The
the
problem
voters,
was
the one that
though,
voted to
was
have
language
an
that
ordinance.
So
period,
is
but
everything in that ordinance
This was the
up
website.
for change,
Yeah, I
or
don't know,
just the items
it's
mentioned?
so long ago.
You have an
We had
ordinance,
so
so
many-
be it, and
We're allowed to amend it, we made
whatever's in
amendments.
it,
Right,
great.
Now we're gonna go through we're gonna just double check, make sure we do this properly, right? Hold our meeting in 6
I think we did it properly, it's not a matter of doing it
Well,
properly.
I mean, make sure we do it
Moving
properly going
forward.
forward, I didn't mean to say we didn't.
let's just
I mean,
get
these
it-
are all
let's
valid
get it done.
concerns, I understand what you're saying, you don't want people coming, staying next to you, blowing up your house, all that. But it's, there's a more fundamental level in terms of, procedure and what a town can do and what it can't do and what it should do, philosophically, can the select board tell people, that you have to do this X, Y, and Z.
Oh, you're making
You
a
have
speed
a piece of
limit
property. As long as you present, if you have a short-term rental and you bring me a certificate of insurance, it's not up to me to say, well, that's not the right, it is what it is. It
Right,
goes in
but the
my
town can
folder.
still say what you're supposed to have and whether.
Yes, it can, and we are, and we did, and it does, that's my point. My point is that we keep belaboring this
It
thing
does
about.
say about insurance, that they have to
Yes.
have insurance?
Yes, it
What
does.
does it say?
It says you must have the
Insurance.
requisite amount of insurance
And it
for your.
says a rental
covers a
endorsement.
Short-term, yes.
It says a rental endorsement, which is more than just homeowners.
Exactly. My beef is with the trying to determine what these things are, because there's different levels of how property is owned.
Well,
And
that's up to the
If
homeowner.
you've got a second home, it's a different story. If you've got a place you buy and your sole intent is to rent it out, and you're not ever touching it with your own self, you're not setting foot in it, it's just a business, that's a totally different type of insurance. And that is not up to us to say, oh, you didn't do that. That's up to you. If you're renting it, you need to know what
Right.
if you're calling yourself a landlord, then you better know what kind of insurance to get. And you better present the right type of thing, and you better look at it. Frank will look at it, he'll go, well, yes, it's presented, and that goes in there. And then if they didn't do, if they're not doing business properly, and they burn down your house,
Well,
then,
that's why,
then it's.
You have legal action.
that's why it says 365 days in there, because some people, and it's typical, oh, well, we'll use it, and then when we're not using it, we'll rent it out. And then if they get a repeat guest in there, well, we got all repeat guests, and then all of a sudden, well, that's why not having Vacasa support that, or Airbnb as a platform, because they can switch, and that's only covered for the nights that they're there. So it doesn't cover if somebody, rents out, like, oh, come on back this year for a week, then Vacasa, there's no coverage there, on that. So that's why with an underwriter that writes insurance policies specifically for that is important.
So what I'm gonna say is, we're gonna have a chance, it sounds like, to discuss all of this. The ordinance still stands as is until it's amended, and we will
I
find
might
out.
forget.
Oh, gosh.
Hopefully you go away.
I mean, just on the final, I agree with you 100%, but that comes out in the wash of, I mean, this is another beef that I have with this whole thing, the level of enforcement. If you got somebody that rents a place on the Casa, fine, great, they come in for a week, and then, yeah, then Bob and Grace love your place and they wanna come back all the time. They're not calling Picasso no more, and they're not covered by Picasso no more. But, so they got it, then Frank, I'm just pointing at you, because you're the new guy. You know, it's up to him to come in and say, okay, well, Bob and Grace, they're just there paying, they're not covered by Picasso. So, Johnny, give us a new thing, and then Johnny's gotta get the new thing, or Johnny's in violation of the
Well, that
ordinance.
would be too overwhelming to do something to that. That's why getting the insurance.
So I think there's somebody on Zoom that had their hand up, is that true?
I thought we didn't have Zoom.
We do, it's right there.
It's been dropping in and out. We have
Don't have the
barely any bandwidth, so
We don't have the best
I'm not sure if they are or are not raising hands.
Can't see him.
Okay.
I heard somebody say.
Did you?
I heard somebody say, I have a question, I think.
And anybody in Zoom land say something?
Not at 10 megabytes a second.
I think it did, I can't tell, is that it has like a line across.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it just keeps, the soccer's literally quit and come back several
Right.
times.
They're gonna
So we'll
use
have,
the
we upgrade the internet in this building for the next meeting. I mean, I'm happy to do it on Comcast.
I know
Is this Comcast here?
Yeah. So I mean, we gotta have at least 75 up and down.
That's exactly.
Yeah, if you can do it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll put that on my to-do list. Okay, well, at the next select board meeting, we'll have an update about the process.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
You got it.
Now, let's talk about Knox boxes.
No,
Oh, okay.
not.
That's a whole separate meeting.
We're invited here.
We're going on to mail and warrants.
Well,
Unless there's
I've got
any-
a couple of quick things,
Okay.
Jay. Do we need to talk about that dog issue?
Yeah, what the hell is going on with that? There's no way, there's no way.
Yeah, I think we, the appropriate, we don't have a dog warden, so, there's a leash law in Vermont. and
Yeah, I got that.
State statute, and I believe you don't have to have your dog on a leash, but your dog has to remain under control.
Right.
Is there a leash law?
It's
My
statewide.
responsibility as part of the town health officer is to investigate all dog bites.
We haven't had a bite yet, but
You know,
we've got a volunteer.
Yeah.
the emergency rooms send me a report, and then I have to investigate it, and then I could quarantine the dog for 10 days or whatever, but that's part of
Can
the.
you do it as like a dog that's being maybe perceived as harassing somebody, or?
It has to be a bite. Somebody called me about dog on dog bites, and I said, no, I could only deal with it.
Well, so how do we prevent, a concern is preventing the dog from biting somebody, it's a citizen.
Well, I know that personally because I have a dogs chase me when I'm riding my bike, and I
There's not much you can do.
scream.
Can we, so we thought about calling the constable, calling the constable is involved, is that right at this point? So I guess we do have it covered.
Yeah, I talked to Josh this afternoon. He's on vacation this week. Did he tell you that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have a leash law or no?
But,
I was worried. He was trying to-
but you reached out to the
Yeah.
Plymouth doesn't have a leash law, but there's a state leash law.
Oh,
So we need
But not-
tranquilizers. Dog districts.
That's what it's recommended.
Dogs are attracted to
The hard part about that is it's
Doesn't matter.
very,
how well you know.
it's a dog.
Tie a stake to the back of the bike.
Dogs can
What else
listen
you
to
got?
9 times out of 10, but if they don't listen, that's not
Thank you. I got it right here.
Yeah, so you're liable for your dog, is what the state says.
Legally.
Oh, Seven's Highway Department.
I guess to bite somebody you can.
Right, I've always been under the
He's like,
impression
But
there
that's
was.
state land anyway.
10 days.
So they would have
You're
to
doing
have
that rabies and stuff.
Right, check out the rabies.
Yeah.
Because when we have.
No, Rick, I have to check out the rabies information, and it goes on the form that gets
Yeah.
filed with the clerk.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not sure whether or not I could do anything proactive. I have a feeling the law is written more after the bite.
Yeah,
I'll check that, but.
Sounds, as far as the health officer's concerned.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
That's
We got our
interesting. I thought we had a
constables
leash
chasing
law.
it, so, we have our constables chasing
Yes.
that issue right now, so we'll see where it goes. I have item 7 on the agenda was about phones. We had a proposal for rewiring the municipal building, the phone wiring system, February. And we tabled it because of the renovations going on, but now that the ceiling's opened up and we see what we have there, I'd like to reconsider this proposal. It's,
So it's all Cat 6 cabling? that
yes,
needs
it
to go?
is. It is all Cat 6 coming up. The patch panels and control panels are in the municipal bay, right where they wash trucks all the time. And the wiring is just cobbed together and been patched and added on, and it's just a total mess. And every time we have a trouble issue, it takes days to troubleshoot it by technicians, and it's just not a good setup. So, and the wiring is old, and we have a proposal for adding new Cat 6 wiring to the whole building. It's $8,000, $9,000.
Running through that ceiling?
Yeah. We're gonna move everything with this proposal.
I'm moving the panel too as part of that.
Yeah, into the
About
utility.
3,000, that's it?
No, 8.
8,000, he said.
I can't find the
But
total
it doesn't
yours.
sound bad.
Almost $9,000.
Sure, the cable company won't cover any of that, will they?
No, they'll run the power to the panel to the new location, but all the wiring inside the building they won't touch. They won't touch. Here it is, 8654. You've seen this proposal a couple of weeks ago, it was on the table, and
That's the guy Larry knew, isn't it?
yeah, actually, this is, he owns property and he's a Plymouth resident, so I'm told. The technician who wrote up this proposal, who works for the company, Communications Solution,
We'll get one day.
something or other.
So, and they're running 2 cables per spot, so they have redundancy if something gets pinched or.
I will make sure that, what'll happen next if we approve this, Jay, I will meet with him on site and walk through the building and walk through that proposal and make sure we've got what we need. But now's the time to do it. The renovation project's coming along, it's moving forward, we have a lot of projects done this past week. It's a challenge, but we're getting there. We obviously moved the staff over to the annex building. That went fairly well, a few hiccups here and there, but we worked through them.
That's a cozy building.
Huh?
That's a cozy building.
It's a summer cottage.
It is cozy. The staff has been great.
watch TV, just try to keep it low.
Everybody stepped up and helped out a lot. We had a lot of support from the staff, so they deserve a big thank you for that one.
So this includes new racks, PoE switches, data switch. So there's a lot on this. It's not just
They're starting from scratch, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's like starting from scratch.
It should also have the capacity to go virtual or to go on the cloud as we need it. So we begin to secure our computer systems. That will help.
Well, this is the one thing I would say in addition to that, what Mike just said is, they've got Ubiquity, and I wonder if they could use this, it's a little bit more user-friendly. You know, I've dealt with that company, and you try to access that hardware remotely, and it's
Not fun.
It's not fun. I mean, we had IT professionals trying to deal with that, and they couldn't crack the.
Mike, if I set up a meeting with this gentleman, you're welcome to join us.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your input.
So that, I just think that would be helpful for us if we have a.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we do that. The issue I have is, it's not in the budget, so it's taking a dip of our contingency if we use it through the construction funds that have been approved.
Well, is it, I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's really not part of the construction project.
I thought we would, when we did that, I mean, it kind of falls under the office equipment.
Yeah,
That's what I
it does.
Yeah, and the other part of that is too, is that what does it cost you to maintain what's there now?
Yeah,
You know, you're at a point of diminishing return, you know, what I mean, so.
you are.
I thought all this was
Okay.
included in the money we voted on.
So having said that, I would make a motion that we
Ooh.
move forward with Key Communications for telephone wiring
For,
$8,640 some. I'll give you exactly now.
you have to earmark it right now for where the money's coming from, or?
No.
No?
No.
But I think it's good to get this done, I mean, while it's opened up, right? It costs a fortune to.
Oh, yeah, it's a no-brainer to do it now.
865418.
If you're gonna do it, now's the time.
We were actually talking about this before we did.
Did you already pull the ceiling out of there?
Yeah.
Have the insulation all up in there?
No.
Will they do it before you get to a point where you're putting ceilings back together?
Exactly, yeah. We'll schedule it in the right sequence.
So a couple $1,000s of this is just hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just, it's moving that panel, and it's like that PoE switch is probably, it's a 24 port, probably $600, just for that thing. So, I mean, this is an equipment upgrade, and I think the internet will be better. The users
Right, yeah.
in the office it'll be better for them.
How long before it goes outdated?
I'm sorry?
How long before it goes outdated? I'm just asking.
How long what?
Before it goes outdated, like
The
Woodstock.
minute they put it in,
Have
it
a-
gets outdated.
That's what I'm saying, so how many, what's the update process on
The
all
last
that?
one lasted 40 years, but
Well-
this will last 40
You
years.
ain't getting 4 years out
The
of
way
this one.
Oh, 2 years
technology
from now,
changes.
6 months from now, you'll be.
I mean,
I'm
if they
just
could
curious.
eliminate downtime, it's a
Yeah,
win.
it's a
Another
win, but I'm
crystal
just
ball
curious.
question, Karen.
I'm just
Who
curious.
knows where technology's going?
So the cabling may last for
Yeah.
actually 20 years. I mean, some of this hardware will.
Yeah, the hardware, yeah, but
Yeah.
the constant updates of everything.
Well, it's no different than computers or cell phones or everything else.
Oh, I know, that's
Just
why I'm asking.
Throw it away, get a new one. Geez, everything's disposable, it seems.
And cost money.
That's all I have anyway. I do have one item for
Yeah,
executive
so, I
session.
mean, I would second that. I mean, I think
Okay.
it's, Keith, are you comfortable with it?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, thank you. I do have one for executive session.
Okay.
I want to talk about.
All right, so that brings us to mail and warrants. I guess that's it. Fun stuff. You're welcome to stay. We're just gonna,
Open now.
yeah, I don't think there's much. It's mostly signing up.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, seriously, thank you.
Sorry.